Crafting the perfect story takes 1,000,001 rewrites. Crafting a captivating ending is the hardest part, even for the best writers. So, we are checking out what could have been in some of our favorite Disney animated movies. Number 1. Never meet your idols. May took a flight from California where Robert, the one in Fortown who speaks Francais, sat down next to May. We're not sure what they're going for in this last storyboard image, but we love it. Number 2. Who thought panda magic could be so complicated? May's panda would change size based on the size of May's feelings, but this got too complicated. However, before it was cut, the ending would have seen 2 gigantic red pandas duking it out all across Toronto, just like Godzilla vs. King Kong. Number 3. To panda here or to panda over there? That is the question. An early version of Turning Red was less about the conflict of human versus panda, and was more about Panda May being used as a tourist attraction to save the temple, versus her wanting to be a party panda at school. Of course, this would have changed the trajectory of the entire movie if May's mom was okay with her daughter being a giant red panda. Number 4. Home is where the heart is, so that's why this touching ending didn't make it.
I can't go back.
Originally, Mirabel ran away and was chased by Abuela back into the city they were once forced to leave. The two of them have a touching heart-to-heart, but only after Abuela sees a mural of her husband who sacrificed himself, along with a maxim of his: to love it all is to love entirely. Number 5. There was once sea monsters scarier than Uncle Ugo. Yes, indeed, the climax of Luca included a giant kraken for a solid sec. This didn't last because it took the focus too far away from the lead characters, and also did the one thing they were trying to avoid with this movie, which was showcase the deep sea life as scary. Number 6. What happens in the great beyond stays in the great beyond. One ending of Soul would have seen Joe go on to that same great beyond. The end. Another, he would find out what happens there and then come back to Earth. But that was just too confusing. Number 8. We skipped one, sorry. Number 7. Having a choice was the change for Joe, not what choice he made. That's why it was such a great ending. And well, in this alternate ending, we got a time skip. We would jump ahead to a year later so we could take a peek at how Joe's life is going. But given the rest of the plot felt so immediate, this skip felt disingenuous. Number 8. Man, did Soul have a lot of alternate endings. For a movie that is so much about choices, it makes sense it took a lot of debate to land on the right one. So in this alternate ending, Joe goes with Dorothea Williams on tour. But he wasn't just choosing his dream over teaching. He'd be teaching privately, 22 being one of his students, whom he recognizes. We like to imagine this is what happens after the credits roll. Number 9. Raya and the repetitive storyline. Namaari was to be your typical run-of-the-mill Disney villain who had control over the Droon, making the Droon faceless villains instead of more humanoid, and stripping Namaari of control over them allowed for her character to have a redemption arc. Number 10. Sisu and the Comeback Kids. Sisu was always fated to not make it to the end of the movie. However, it was a long debate over whether she, or even the rest of the dragons, would ever make a comeback. In one version, there was never even a possibility of the other dragons coming back, but, of course, this is Disney, darn it, and they wanted their happy ending. It was explained, what we were digging into psychologically is if we are the solution, why are we bringing the magical, mystical creatures back in? The place where we arrived is a place that's more connected to a more Southeast Asian and South Asian perspective, which is when we found the solution for ourselves, that we earned the right to manifest the mystical. Number 11. Bo almost did the exact opposite of her character. Bo breaks up with Woody. True story. We're glad they didn't go with that one. Okay, it isn't like she breaks up with him because he's a jerk. It's because she meets a kid whom she has a special bond with, and decides to go with her and not be lost anymore. And Woody returns to Bonnie, who still loves him despite his missing voice box. Number 12. Arendelle is obliterated. That's right, there was a version of this story where Arendelle Castle was washed away in a flood. Everyone had to work together to rebuild the castle in the styles of the two groups, connecting Arendelle and North Uldra through their own architectural styles. The ending we got instead had the two sisters completely separate. Number 13. They buried the idea of Cars 4. Cruz Ramirez, Lightning McQueen's mentee, was never meant to do that final race. It was Lightning McQueen who was back on the track, competing for the title again. The film still would have ended with McQueen mentoring Ramirez, but that honestly just didn't showcase McQueen sacrificing anything for the win. Number 14. Here's a story that was completely scrapped. In the first draft of Coco, the lead was an American boy with a father from America and a mother from Mexico, but his mother passed away. So his father takes the boy down to Mexico to meet his family for the first time on Dia de los Muertos. It was about this boy coming to grips with his mother being gone and saying goodbye to her and letting go of her. The director realized that he was telling a story that was completely antithetical to what the day's about, which is never letting go. That it's about the importance of remembering your ancestors and keeping their memories alive, while they were telling a story that was from a very American Western perspective about letting go and grieving, and they realized that they needed to start over. Number 15. The movie's called Moana, not Maui. Originally, Moana and Maui fought to Ka, and it was Maui who defeated her. In another rewrite, the island was destroyed and had to be pulled back up by Maui. Problematically, both endings gave too much of a focus to Maui and took Moana out of the center of the movie. Women on the creative team were not too happy about that. Number 16. Global warming is real, people. Moana's family was held hostage in one ending. How they got there, nobody knows. Given the entirety of nature is out of balance, though, her family is threatened anywhere in the world. Number 17. We can't help but picture an entire army of snow geese here. The original Frozen had an awesome alternate ending, far more interesting than Frozen 2 anyway. Elsa and Anna weren't sisters. Elsa was a self-titled evil queen with an entire army of snow monsters. Where the real plot and the alternate plot merged, though, was that the true villain of the story was Hans, and Elsa instead used her army of snow dudes to fight the man with the mutton chops. There's a couple reasons they decided against this ending. The first, they didn't want to create what felt like a copy of other Disney princess movies. The second, they didn't believe the audience would get behind Elsa's sudden redemption arc. Number 18. Toy Story almost went international. Toy Story 3 nearly repeated Toy Story 2. It was about Buzz malfunctioning. All of the Buzz Lightyear toys were recalled and shipped off to Taiwan to be fixed. This is basically what the second movie was, which was void of the plot of Andy going off to school and saying goodbye to his toys. Number 19. I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts falling in the flames. Scar was to fall into the flames, believing that he had successfully brought a fiery end to his nephew Simba as well. But Simba, of course, secretly fell into a tree. While this is a bit more disturbing and darker in tone, we are glad Scar got to see he failed and had some angry hyenas turn on him instead. Number 20. Eric was nearly swimming with the fishes. Yes, Ursula pulled him underwater, but Sebastian dragged over King Triton's trident to Eric so that he could free himself by spearing Ursula in the chest. Number 21. Historical events pushed the animation studio to completely reface one scene. Originally, Stitch was going to hijack a plane named Tsunami Air and fly through the middle of a city as he was chasing Gantu and Lilo. But, due to the events of 9/11, one major scene in Lilo and Stitch had to be changed. Instead, Stitch flew a spaceship, and the chase happened over the mountains. Number 22. Are ventriloquist dolls even considered children's toys? Something that would have changed the entire face of the franchise. Woody, like Elsa, was going to be evil, pure evil. Not just misunderstood with a hope for redemption. A sneering gunslinger whose cruelty causes the other toys to rise up against him. And instead of having a charming little voice box, he was a much creepier ventriloquist doll. It would have changed literally everything. Now we see where Woody's name came from. Number 23. The least surprising twist ever. You know how Aladdin opens up with the merchant telling the story? Well, he was to be revealed as the genie at the end of the movie. Note the voice of Robin Williams and the Four Fingers. While that ending was cut, we always knew. Number 24. If you want to see this alternate ending, just watch George of the Jungle 2. Tarzan almost ended in the complete opposite way, with Tarzan and Jane leaving nature to go to the human world instead. Number 25. It was open season in the Jungle Book. Mowgli returned to the human village and reunited with his long-lost mother, followed by a time-lapse. Adult Mowgli was not getting along with nature too well, and he used his rifle on Shere Khan. We can see why they cut all that and left the movie on a more charming note. We've got to say, we agree with pretty much all of these changes, except for maybe the ending to Frozen 2. But what about you? Do you wish any of these movies ended differently? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for hanging out with us here at The Things.